Hi, today we're doing power to a power, power to a product, and power to a quotient. Tonight's homework is 5.2, page 212. Number 1 through 67 is mandatory. If you feel you are working at an honors level and are an honors student, you should be attempting 68 through 81. Okay, please make sure and try to do those problems. Okay, so today we're doing a power to a power rule. Now basically what that is when you see a parenthesis and there's the exponent inside and an exponent outside, the operation that we're really doing is multiplying. It's really the A times the B. And you can see if we have n to the third and we do that twice, I don't want to write those all out, but really how many do I end up with? N to the sixth. So that's the same thing as doing n to the third times the second. Okay, which is n to the sixth. So let's try it. Okay. Pause your recording and let's try these four. I'll do the first one with you and then I want you to do 2 through 4. Ready? So y to the third, it's outside, inside parentheses, so we do y to the 12th. It's just y to the third times the fourth, which is y to the 12th. All right, you try the next 3. Now check your work. The second one would be n to the 15th. The third one would be t to the 6th. And I do like you to write that extra step right there. Well, at least for now, as we start progressing and using this elsewhere, just in the beginning. And the last one would be k to the 14th. Okay, so that was a power to a power. But now we're going to do a product. That means things that I'm multiplying with power to a power. Product to a power. So inside I'm multiplying and I've got that power. Okay? That means x is to the nth power and y is to the nth power. So, if I have a coefficient, that means 3 is going to be squared and x is going to be squared. And so that would be 9x squared. Okay, so you try the next 3 and then check your work. All right. So the first one is going to be 2 to the third and y to the third, which would be 8y to the third. Now, in the next one, you've got to be really careful here because since the negative is inside, it gets squared. Everything inside the parenthesis gets squared. So what? It would be negative times negative, 5 squared, which is 25. Negative times negative is a positive, and m squared. Or you can do negative 5 times negative 5, which is positive 25m squared. And then the last one would be 4 cubed, which is 64t cubed. All right, they start to get longer and more complex. I'm going to try the first one. Remember, negative 2 is to the 4th power. And then I've got a squared times 4. B cubed is also to the 4th power times the 4th power. And c is to the 4th power. So negative 2 to the 4th power. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And 4 times 4 is 16. So negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. It's really 4 times 4. It's 16. A is to the 8th power, B is to the 12th, and C is to the 4th. Okay? So now you pause the recording and try the next 2. All right, so now let's try it. Check your work. Negative 5 squared is 25. We've got x squared. Don't forget that x. It's to the 1st power times the 2nd power makes the 2nd power. y to the 10th power times the second power, and z to the third power times the second power. Power to a product, because there's things inside there that are multiplied. So we get 25 x squared y to the 20th z to the 6th. And we usually keep these in alpha order. All right, this one gets kind of sneaky. So, is there a power to the -8? No, because it's not inside the parenthesis. The only thing that is to the second power is everything in the parenthesis. That's what's touching it. So we have our -8. We've got n to the third power times the second power. We've got p to the fourth power times the second power. And we've got t to the 0 power times the second power. So that simplifies to -8, n to the 6th, p to the 8th, and t to the 0 times 2 is t to the 0 power. Remember, anything to the 0 power equals 1. So, we don't even write it. I don't need to write times 1. This is a very important problem. Please make sure you're noting that. We don't need to do anything to the 0 power. It equals 1. So I don't need to write it there. Notice how there's nothing there. Okay. All right, let's try some more. Pause the recording. Okay, now check your work. I get 3 squared, a squared, b to the second, and c squared. And that would be 9. 9a squared, b squared, c squared. Remember, next one would be -25 x squared, y squared. Next one would be, since it's going to be 6 negatives, it's going to be positive. So it'll be -a, or it'll be a to the second, -1 to the 6th power, a to the second times the 6th power, and b to the 6th. So it's a to the 12th, b to the 6th. Okay. Next one is -4 to the 3rd power, x to the 3rd power, y to the 3rd power. So -64, there's only odd number, and y to the 3rd power. -2 to the 5th power. Actually, let's say -1, we could do -2. -2 to the 5th power. 2 to the 5th power is 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. That's 32, and it's going to be odd, so odd number of negatives, so it's going to be -32, r to the 15th, right? 3 times 5, and s to the 2 times 5 is s to the 10th. Next one, it's going to be negative because it's outside the parentheses. 7 squared, m to the 6th, n squared. So it's -49, m to the 6th, n to the 2nd. All right, now we're multiplying even more power to a product. So we got to take the exponents of each. 3 is going to be squared, so it's going to be 9. X will be to the 4th, y is to the 6th. -4 squared is times the whole thing is multiplied by, because parenthesis next to parenthesis, times -4 squared is 16. I've got x squared and y to the 4th. Now, we're going to multiply coefficient with coefficient. Those get multiplied. And now, remember, when there's no longer a power to a power inside the parenthesis, what do we do with the exponents? If it's straight multiplication, we really just add them. So I'm multiplying the 9 and the 16. And that makes 144. Let's do one at a time. 144, the 9 and the 16. X to the 4th times x to the 2nd is x to the 6th. Remember, we're adding now. because there's no more parentheses. Y to the 6th and y to the 4th is y to the 10th. Okay, pause the recording and try the next one. Check your work. Okay, so now let's check. Remember, we do our power to the power first, which would be 2 squared is 4. A to the 3rd times the 2nd would be 6. Remember, outside, inside. B to the 5th times the 2nd will be B to the 10th, and C squared times negative 2 to the 3rd. Negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8. A is to the 3rd, and B is to the 12th. Now, I'm multiplying my coefficients, negative 32. I've got A to the 6th and A to the 3rd. What do? Multiply or add? Really? Since it's multiplication, we add them. A to the 9th, B to the 22nd, and C to the 2nd. Should be your final answer. Okay, let's go on to our next piece, which is power to a quotient. Okay, remember, outside, inside, we're still multiplying exponents. So let's look at the first one. It's 2 squared x. So that means we're doing 2 is squared and x is squared and 5 is squared. So 2 squared is 4, x squared, and 5 is 25. 4x squared over 25. Let's try the next one. I'm going to write it. 5 squared is going to be 25. A to the 2nd times the 2nd is going to be A to the 4th. B to the 4th, remember, times the 2nd is B to the 8th, all over 3 squared, which is 9. Okay? All right, time for you guys to try it. Okay. I will try the first one with you. We're doing y to the 20th. Everything is to the 5th power in there, so it's y to the 4 times 5 over 3 to the 5th, which is, let's let the PowerPoint do that one. That's a big number. That'd be 81 times 3, which I think is 243. That's right. Okay. All right, pause the recording. Now check your work. We've got 2 cubed, which is 8, and a to the 7th times the 3rd power is 21. A to the 21st. And 5 to the 3rd is 125. Okay, 8a to the 21st over 125. I guess in this case, I don't mind you going right to the answer. I do, because we're working through a lot. Okay, the fraction, 2 is squared, 3 is squared. So it's going to be 4 over 9. A to the 8th and B to the 4th. 4 over 9. Next one, 16 x to the 4th, y squared, all over 49 a squared. Okay, questions? I guess you can't really ask them, can you? I'm so used to teaching. All right, here's where it gets kind of sneaky. We're kind of adding everything, and we're combining like terms with that subtraction. So step 1, we're going to be using our power to a power. So I'm doing 3 squared x to the 4th, 5 x. Now notice, when I'm right there, is there 2 powers inside, outside? No. So I'm going to the rules of multiplication. If it's straight multiplication, we're really just going to add those exponents. So it'll be 45x to the 5th. I don't know that I would, I guess we're going to keep working that way. So it's 2 to the 4th is 16, and x to the 4th, and then I've got that x. So we called that the power to the power. That was the first thing we did. So then the second step, we really are no longer using that power to a power because there's no exponent outside. Everything's inside, so I go back to rules of multiplication. And rules of multiplication say, instead of multiplying, we add the exponents. So if this one is the first power, really we're going to get 9 times 5 is 45, and x is to the 5th power minus 16x to the 5th power. Let's see if that's what the PowerPoint did. I'm pretty sure they did. And we're using the rule of common bases where we multiply. Now we are doing combining like terms. We can only combine like terms if the variable and the exponent are exactly the same, and they are in this case. So all we really do is add the coefficients. 45x to the 5th, take away 16x to the 5th. How many x to the 5th do we have left? 29x to the 5th. So we are combining like terms there. All right, these are pretty tricky. Why don't you get started and try and do, or do you want to do the first one together? Pause the recording, see if you can do them. All right, let's check our work. Step 1, we're doing power to a power. 3 squared, a to the 4th, b squared, c to the 6th. And the second one is 4, a to the 4th, b squared. Next is one, I'm taking my power to a power. A to the 3rd, b to the 3rd, c to the 6th. There's no power on that second one, so it all stays the same. So the only thing that changes is that first term. Now we're going to use our rule of common bases. Since it's not a power to a power, we're going to add the exponents of the common bases. And our coefficients, we multiply. 9 times 4 is 36. A to the 8th, b to the 4th, c to the 6th. Minus, notice I have 1 a to the 3rd, and there's we're doing, so I've got 1 times 5 is, we're going to do minus, it's a 5. A to the 3rd times a to the 5th is a to the 8th. Okay, b to the 3rd and b to the 1st is b to the 4th. And then we have c to the 6th. Are these like terms? A to the 8th, b to the 4th, c to the 6th. So yes, they are like terms. All we really deal with is their coefficients. 36 of these minus 5 of these gives us 31. A to the 8th, b to the 4th, c to the 6th. All right, try the next one. Now check your work. The first power to a power looks like this. Now when I combine them, when I multiply them, I'm really just adding my exponents. So we have 7m to the 7th. Remember, there's 1 here. Don't forget about that. N to the 6th plus negative 36, or I guess it would be minus 36, m to the 7th, n to the 6th. And now, combine like terms, and there we go. All right, that's the lesson. A lot of little rules to remember. You have